on WCCR Revolution Radio, broadcasting from Australia. Then jump into the chat room to chat to us, not well with us, depending on if we're talking or not on air, while we're on air, actually, and discuss the topics we bring to air and see the links we share during the show. This is show number 448.
40 and 400. There's only a couple of shows to do 450, which is, sort of a milestone in its own right. It's pretty cool.
What is it, Krusty show?
It's a Krusty show. It's time for a clip show again.
That's right. The 99th episode. We need to do a comeback special. So it's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. If you missed Solaris' show, she had the witching hour thing. Hang on a sec. I've got to read the actual text because I have the Cyber Witch Cafe, and it's always awesome. And Montana, Jordan, and Nish was there discussing the Samhain. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And that's coming up on, I think, October 31st. That's Halloween.
It is All Hallows Eve.
Oh, Hallows Eve. That's right. Yes.
One of the high feasts of the Wiccans, in case you're wondering.
Yes.
There are 4 of them, and this is one of them, which is really cool. A lot of people don't know that. It's true though. True story.
I believe my esteemed co-host. The archives are currently available via the Freedom Slips archives link on the webpage, and you can check out Solaris' shows. Always an awesome show. Always great topics. Always great guests. It's a melting pot. It could be tonight. It could have been a cauldron of great ideas and great discussions. And look, you can just not only can you catch her shows. If you're catching this on YouTube, I normally speak equivalently to this every other show. It's a great place to catch up on all of the host shows from Revolution Radio in the Freedom Slips archives. Now, I'd like to just say right here, right now, that both Meki and I respectfully understand the benefit that the custodians of the lands where we live and possibly where you live as well, and how we respectfully understand the way that they looked after the land, the way that they did control burning to reduce the hazard each year in the summers and the bushfires and control the environment. That was their weeding and their animal control. And they, it's sort of like, rotary farming, where you had different crops in there, and you changed each one of the areas that you were looking in and working through, because if you clear the land, you can get through barefoot, and then you can get access to the new growth, and attracts creatures, and they had food source. So they did a better job than we do, and that's why we respectfully pay. Well, I got funded, Meki, where I am, and we got we respectfully understand the way that the custodians looked after it, and if only we did such a good job. But maybe there's some topics coming that we might be sort of leaning that direction. So for me, where I live, it's the Dark and Young people, and Meki, where you live,
it's the rock people.
Yeah, so we pay our respects not only to the elders past, present, and future, but to the way that they looked after the land. All right. So I'm still envious. Meki, crazy times yet again. Is this year? The thing that I liked mentioning this week was that the Oompa Loompas should come at the end of every month and tell us all the things that we did wrong. It's been so crazy yet again. There's left winnings all over the place. So in Australia, we've seen Canberra votes yesterday. Left party got in. New Zealand, left party got in. That's Jacinda. First time without a coalition, Meki. It was a landslide to them. So,
well, she did a good job. I mean, you can say what you want. She's been handling it
very well.
The situation very well.
Yeah. So in New South Wales, where both Meki and I live, our not esteemed leader, just the person running the job has now been found to, is being questioned by our independent Commission Against Corruption, and been found to at least have been knowledgeable and had phone conversations played back where there must have been an investigation for some time for them just to be able to pluck those out of their archives, if you know what I'm saying, Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to be played, firstly, do you have a relationship with this person? Nope. So here's a conversation we have. We'll just play it. Do you mind listening to it? We'll play it 5 hours in the chair. We're going to play you a conversation that you had with this person where they were coming home because you were having a relationship with them. Now, we just asked you if you had one, but look, let the audio tell the truth. And I really found that a very hard thing to watch anyone have to go through.
This is the highest office in the state. So you are under
scrutiny.
A lot of scrutiny.
Yeah.
So I mean, people are always complaining, if they're celebrities or whatever, all these paparazzi, this and that. Well, no one forced you to do this, right? No one forced you into this life, and you're making a buckload of money for it. And same with politicians. No one made her become the premier. Well, the premier is like the head of state for our state, not for the country. So it's in a way it's like a federation, similar to or Commonwealth, similar to Canada or the US or Germany or other places where you've got several states with state leaders. And she is apparently an intensely private person. But you know what? And the key here is to understand that her friend, her very intimate friend, I guess, is now in front of ICAC, which is a commission that deals with illegal and bribing and all kinds of things that he may have done. So he illegally took advantage of his position in Parliament to gain himself personally monies. So monies were paid to him. So that is the kicker here, right?
Yeah. I'm not a crook.
And did she know? Did she not know? Well, she had a 5-year relationship with the guy, which just ended in September, like this September, in the last month.
Yeah, that's when she would have been subpoenaed to attend.
Well, bingo, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see anymore. And you have to ask, well, what did you know? You are in a prime position of power. What did you know about his dealings?
I'm not going to question whether she knew, because some of the conversations that were played back appeared as though she didn't want it to be said, and not the ones you just heard in the media. If you watch the entire thing, she was basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing, saying, stop talking like this over the phone.
Okay, exactly. That's really the point here.
So that really means that she knew, right?
Yes. Or she knew that there were things that she shouldn't know.
There you go.
To speak like Mr. Rumsfeld.
That's right.
So I'm sorry. Yeah. I have no patience or sympathy at all. Zero, none.
No. Look, it does appear as though she knew what was going on, and that she was just trying to silence their that wayward talk on the electric telephone, which is the possibility clearly of being recorded, which it was.
I need some more practice with your telephone machine.
Yes.
Little.
On the electric telephone. So look, it seems to have unraveled some of the things. Now, I thought she was doing a reasonably good job with the virus, but if an election came up right now and there's all this scrutiny, I don't think she'd survive very well. In fact, if it was the other way around, if it was the right in opposition and the left in power, the right would have already forced her resignation. If it was the other way around, because that's what we've seen in history, right?
And the thing is this: she's come down pretty hard on others that were doing similar things in the past.
Yeah.
Okay,
so live by the sword, die by the sword, right?
Well, look. I mean,
I don't know.
Do as you say, as you do, and not.
Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah. If you set an example, I mean, if you're the person and you're prosecuting or you're punishing people for doing these things or asking for their punishment, then you got to be prepared that it's coming your way. See, people never are. People are never thinking, "Oh, it's going to be me. I'm going to get caught."
No,
it's just but that's just a sign of complete stupidity.
Completely. So look, it sort of takes me down the road of Biden, and I'm not. That's the last time I'm going to say the words.
Biden.
That's right. Thanks, Becky. Because all of the other YouTubes that are talking about this are getting taken down. So I just want to be very careful. The New York Post and its article about this situation was also banned on Twitter and YouTube, that you couldn't repost it. And that's really bad, right? So as part of a control of information, because is it Rudy Giuliani who's the lawyer now to Trump? Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Let's just put it this way: as we all know, a laptop was left in an IT person's care. 90 days passed. Yeah, in Delaware.
Delaware.
There's some things. Delaware's a famous place, right? So
sure.
Yeah, and tried to find a little tiny store that's not going to do anything. But 90 days went by, multiple comms, no reply. Well, it's ours now, according to our policy on the wall. Pointing behind his head. So he made a copy of the hard drive and sent the laptop to Rudy Giuliani, and a copy of some of the details went from Rudy to New York Post. And of course, it's a very powerful thing. And there you go. Now it's out in the open, but you can't talk about it.
No. So let's be very clear.
Yeah.
It's out in the open, right? We have a guy who can't remember. Apparently, he's got a disorder where he can't remember faces.
Sorry, what?
What
are you talking about?
He's got a disorder.
That's right.
He's got a disorder that says he can't remember faces. So he can't remember the face of the person that dropped the laptop into him.
Yeah,
right?
but he believes it surely was the son.
It could be Hunter Biden. Could be someone else.
It could be anyone.
But to be clear, why would Hunter Biden drop it off in Delaware when he's nowhere near Delaware? But that's the case.
That doesn't matter. And of course, the calendar didn't show him being there anyway. So
No. So yeah, and then you have to ask yourself, well, I mean, if this is actually real. I mean, it's again, okay. Where are we, Dave? We are days away, and I mean days away from the election. Days. This is days.
And we're living in crazy town planet now, right?
We're living in crazy town.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump had COVID-19. He says there may be some footage where he's shown wheezing, or not wheezing, or having a hard time breathing, or whatever it might be. The point is, a lot of people his age with obesity, which he has, are now dead or in really bad shape.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did he get sick or not? Well, I'll leave that for you guys to think about and decide. Personally, I don't think he was sick at all, but whatever. If he was sick, it's even worse. If he was sick and he got the treatment that made him better so quickly, I mean, phenomenally quick, faster than Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson was in the hospital for weeks.
That's right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mr. Trump, couple days, boom, done. I'm COVID-free. Look at me, hurrah, boom, ba-dee-da-boo. Right, and you think, if that treatment is available, why did 200,000 Americans die?
Well, in fact, that's what he said. He had to rush that treatment through the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, so that it could be applied to him. Yeah. And then he said this should be made available to everybody.
And yet, thousands of Americans are still dying.
Well, they're still dying. However, the cost, no one's talked about the cost of that, $1 million package that he had. So whether it's true or not, I don't even care.
Right? This is where it's all come undone, right?
Yeah,
because now you have at the very least, you have a two-tier health economy.
Of course you do.
And this is really what Obama tried. Yeah, what Obama tried to resolve with Obamacare. I mean, nobody in the Western world would have thought that what Obama tried to do was a bad thing, because the UK has it, most of Western Europe has it.
I have to say, Mickey, America resisted the hell out of it.
Yeah, Australia has it. We all have a national healthcare system.
Yeah.
And what that means is that you don't have to die from things that you
shouldn't die from.
Well, no.
And it means that you could be seen in hospital, in every public hospital across across Australia, for no charge. As long as you've got a Medicare card, you're good to go. Good to be treated by whatever it takes to get you better.
But even if you don't have a Medicare card, guess what? You still get treated. Okay.
Wow.
If you happen to be a homeless person who doesn't have a Medicare card, you will still receive treatment. Okay, because if you didn't receive treatment, that's actually illegal. And people that don't treat you, they go straight to jail.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
And that's a thing. So if somebody has got the power to treat you, but they don't treat you because no cash, well, too bad. That person has now committed a crime.
Yeah.
And that same is not true in America. Interestingly enough, and now we've got Trump. Let's say that the package is $1 million, $10 million, whatever it is, right? But that means that only the rich will live.
Of course.
only the rich. Let that think in for a second.
That was the thing. That was the thing anyway.
Well,
in the
America,
US, by the way.
In India as well. India, America, Brazil. I think the countries that have the highest COVID cases and the highest death rates, that's exactly the case, right?
Yeah.
Elsewhere, very different story. In Turkey, no FDA. Death rate extremely low because they can just try all the drugs they want. They can just do it, knock yourself out. If you look at that's
causes gigantism. Just try me on it. Go on. I'll take it.
It tastes like blueberries. No, but it's really amazing that just how different countries respond to this. And look,
let's segue this into the COVID numbers.
Let's do that, right? I mean, the COVID numbers are tomorrow it'll be 40 million.
It will
confirmed cases.
Yeah, because it's at 400,000 a day now.
Yeah, and that's actually a huge number.
Daily cases. I remember, Meki, back in April, it was about 100,000 a day. Mm-hmm. And we were, wow, this is bad. Yeah. Now we're 4 times that, and it's not going away.
No, see, I'm not really worried. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't. Look, I am worried, of course, of people that die here. Of course I am worried about that. But
1.1 million. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. 100,000. It was 1 million last week, right? But the point here is it's not really that. I mean, once you've passed away, it's a terrible tragedy, but that's done. The much bigger problem we are going to face in the coming years are the people that have to live with long COVID. I know, again, don't care what you believe and what this is and how it came about. This now has a physical effect on people's health.
Yeah,
if it's a virus or introduced or warfare or whatever, it doesn't really matter anymore at this point.
It's out now. It's out of the box.
Yeah, there are millions, tens of millions of people that will have long-term health effects. That will completely change their lives, will have a huge strain on the economy, etc., etc., etc. These are the numbers that we know of. We haven't tested everybody in the world, right? We've tested a lot of people in the world. We have. That's definitely true. But again, just because you're tested doesn't mean you're not sick the next day. And just because you've had it doesn't mean you can't get sick again. Apparently, there's a guy in the UK that got sick again.
Yeah, that's right.
And more severe the second time around.
Yeah.
Right? Does that mean there's no immunity? Well, there's only the one guy, but maybe
but there are multiple strains of the virus. I think we're up to 7, though I'm trying to find detail past 4. There is talk about there being at least 7 different strains now. And so the first Australian patient, by the way, Meki, was infected with both the S and the H strains or whatever they were back then. It was a bit hard to remember. So he had both.
I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah. And so you can be infected by as many as you can possibly have contact with.
Yeah, absolutely. And does your body produce an immune response? Yeah, and some people does antibodies. I mean, that's how they fight it in the water, right? When they go to sewer systems, they find the antibodies in the waste systems.
That's right.
But it doesn't mean that you're immune. And now people are talking about. Dave and I have spoke about this for some time. Dave, especially around how it's how it is transmitted, and we and especially Dave. I have to give Dave credit here. He spoke about the aerolization of this virus, not just droplets, but just breathing out.
That's right.
And people say, nonsense doesn't happen. It absolutely happens. Not only that, it turns out this thing can live for like 4 weeks.
On a surface outside.
Right?
Yeah.
4 weeks it can live. Now, if the temperature goes up to a certain, this was 20 degrees was the temperature, it was 10. This is completely lab conditions, but nonetheless.
It was, and it's 28 days.
It's quite resilient.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's very, very resilient. Now, if the temperature rises, the number of days, it comes down dramatically. Other factors as well, if you're cleaning, etc., etc.
And guess what other factors there are? Humidity, body fats. So that's the oils that we produce, or as we've now worked out in hindsight, having investigated down these trails, we've found that the cutting surfaces in the meatworks contain body fats. And the virus just absolutely loves it to live in. Oh, this is comfy. It's like a comfy lounge chair when you're watching telly, right? Now, the same thing in the wet markets. It just happens to be a place where it likes to live. Wasn't born there. It didn't have day one of its life going, oh yeah, wow, what a nice place this is to have established myself. No, it came there and then stayed there. And that's the thing that we're finding. Yeah, it wasn't born. Yeah.
It's the virus's Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, completely, right? Yeah, good way of putting it.
And so that's where we are, right? So I don't care what people think, what it is, what it isn't. It is a thing. It is affecting the world. It's affecting a whole bunch of things. And more than anything, Dave, it's affecting the economy.
Do you know where you were going before I rudely interrupted? And I've got to really be careful how often I do this because I've got hate mail from some people saying, Meki was on a thing and you interrupted him, and I wanted to find out. You were talking about the testing, okay? So the testing and those people who proved that, who were completely asymptomatic, didn't even think they were ill at all, but were carriers and spreading it everywhere. And then you've got the socialite people who are the more likely to talk to more and more people. Just talking is enough to give out that virus. Now, because they were never tested, at the moment, the case fatality rate on the planet average, like across all of the infected locations, and Solomon Islands now has 3 cases. It was 188 countries, now it's 189. Solomon's is the new one. What we've seen is now the case fatality rate is down to 3.92%. And it's still falling. But that is only of the people that felt ill that decided to go and get tested. Now, we know, Meki, that there's people in the wild that have no symptoms whatsoever, completely happy to coexist with the virus and are happy giving it out everywhere. Unbeknownst to them, they don't know they've got it, right? Now,
something else to consider, though.
But if we were testing those people, Meki, and they weren't a fatality, that would drop this, CFR way down.
Well,
because I think we'll find 60,000 or plus that were, unaffected.
Well, I think there's 2 sides to this coin. And the first consideration is that when COVID first took hold, the people that were most affected were the elderly. And
that's why we have about a 70% case fatality rate.
Yeah. And they died off first. So that was a very high case fatality rate. That's correct, right? But those people have now died.
Plus the treatment at the time was really poor.
Oh, there was no treatment.
Yeah, we didn't able to just watch them die. Yeah, cool.
What do we do? Respirators. Okay, there you go. But then now the younger people are getting infected more and more.
So the profile, the cross section of the infected is now really young people.
Yeah, completely changed. Now it doesn't mean they don't die, but the percentage rate at which they die is much lower, right? And that's critical to understand here. But there's another factor here as well.
What's that?
We don't know who has COVID in the most part. We've tested lots of people, and we found there are 31 million people that have it. 31 million. Sorry, I lied to you. 39 altogether.
Yep, 39 people who have been tested positive.
Yeah, so almost 40 million people in the world tested positive. Right now, we tested only a fraction of the world's population. In America, doing a really great job. But like I said before, just because you tested one day doesn't mean you're not sick the next. Now, what I'm proposing here is
11.2 million active cases currently.
Right. The official case fatality rate is what it is, and that's nice. And that's good. It's reassuring, etc. It's falling. Blah blah blah. I completely disagree with that statistic because we're not capturing any of the deaths that are COVID related and don't appear to be COVID. Things like blood clots, aneurysms in the brain, heart attack, stroke, all of that, right? All of the organ failure due to blood clotting, etc., etc. So those are not recorded as COVID-19.
And not just asphyxia, right?
No, not completely. The only true measure of this particular event will come in about 5 to 6 years' time, when we look back and we look at the histography of the of the numbers, meaning, okay, for the last 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, whatever it is, people that many people have died in relation to the world population, right? And whatever percentage it is, right? In 2020, that number spiked by X, and that'll be the number that we will know is COVID related for the most part. Because you also have then the people that never had COVID, but they still died because of COVID because they didn't get the care they needed. In India, the system is gone. It's done. It's finished. Forget about it, right? Yeah. Brazil is pretty bad as well because they just can't cope. And a lot of people that have regular things, people still fall off ladders. People still have heart attacks, right? Completely COVID unrelated, right? These things are still happening, and they don't have the capacity to look after those people, especially when the doctors in India, I watched a few reports, they turn back at the elderly because they're making a triage decision. Oh, you're 80. I can't really do much for you, but I can help this 20-year-old or this 30-year-old or whatever. So I'll let the 80-year-old die, right? Even if it's not COVID.
That's a triage thing. You just have to make a call.
Yeah. So I don't think that the official number is going to be anywhere near the actual impact.
Oh no, I completely agree with you. Yeah. We haven't gone.
So
this is what we see is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But whether or not they actually take those into account, I like the way you're going, because I've looked at the current stats for deaths this year compared to all other years going back as far as we kept records, and there is currently no large blip. Ironically, there isn't a blip yet that we can discern from it. This ever-growing population, it doesn't look any different. The thing that I wanted to bring out here was that the India is going to overtake the US, because India is on a steeper climb than the US is, around about November, mid-November or ish, somewhere there, and maybe the end of November. And there's about 500,000 different at the moment, but that's changing at a really fast rate. So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. But it's it's certainly something. There's a number of countries in the top 12, and the UK has come back into the top 12, bumping out South Africa, as if I'm commentating like a sport. But the UK is now completely exponential. They're just, it seems like it's out of control. 20k from, say, 5k, 15k difference between just a couple of weeks ago. And but India, same deal. They're starting to taper off a little, probably because they're infecting or just not testing all the people who are now getting it. Brazil is also tapering off. But Russia's exponential. It's at 15k a day now. And we're talking about the testing rates, Meki, more than anything else. China was deciding this weekend or this last week to test 9 million people. But we don't see the testing rates in our data because it's not evident. Yeah, they're not telling anyone. And North Korea, same deal. There's no data from them whatsoever, right? So
I don't expect that to be.
No, yeah. Well, I wasn't mistaken believing we were going to get it. But Meki, I wanted to talk about this, right? Because there's some knock-on things to do with COVID-19 that.
That's why I was giving you a segue.
I know, right?
To the economy, and look, the economy is going to take a knocking. But Dave, look, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a few things here, right? So the first one is pretty much the Great Reset. And this has been talked about for some time. A lot of things were fast-tracked into being, like, the living wage, Mech. They're talking that was one of the things that the governments around the world were expecting to be able to utilize later on, 10 years from now, when robots have replaced us all and in our jobs, and there's no one left. The automation is basically
made. Retired. I don't care.
That's right. So, but that's what they're talking about, right? That was their plan. Where there's a natural subsidence of people, and we'll have to put it in at some point. So at least it was on the table. It's there as one of the chips. But then comes the virus, and now all of the old folders, Meki, are getting the dust blown off them, getting pulled out of the bottom drawer. And they're talking now about a great reset. Now, the Great Reset has a number of vectors. One of those is from the climate science people saying that we need to make a green future. If we don't make a green future, we're basically suffocating everybody to death. Not just the economy, but the economy will die a slow death anyway as we start to lose greater numbers of people. But what we're seeing is this mixture of the World Economic Forum. We're seeing a mixture of them. We're seeing something that I didn't expect to see, and that is an article, Meki, that I know you've seen, right? And this is from the Cairns News. This is North Queensland on the eastern side, up near the tip of Australia, and they found an article. Now, there's an editor's piece here where the editors have written about what I've now discovered. I've found some parliamentary bills going through the Canadian Parliament about making equivalent of like FEMA camps, but I'll try and articulate a bit better. So the Great Reset is coming now, which is a brand new discovery for me. I know we'd talked about it, and it's October 16th, this article in the Cairns News states that a Canadian politician leaked new COVID lockdown and Great Reset dictatorship. That's their words, not ours. And Australia is part of it. Now, Meki and I have spoken about this reset coming, how the virus has, made the planet a better place. It's taken us steps back away from our carbon emissions where we were trending towards, and taken us back quite a ways, right? It's tremendous what it's done for us. But this is what has now allowed those people in power to decide. Now, back in June, there was the meeting of who was it again, Meki? Which one? This was the World Economic Forum.
Yeah. Right.
Now, the World Economic Forum had some great people talking, and Klaus Schwab, Prince Charles, Christina Gorieva, Antonio Guterres, Anjay Banga. I'll tell you, he's the CEO MasterCard. They're not the CEO MasterCard. He was the CEO of MasterCard. Sharon Burrow, Bernard Looney, and Lord Nick Stern. Now, to have these people in their positions talking about the same thing and all agreeing that this is the direction we should go. It was back in July. There was a CNBC interview with the head. This was shortly after the WEF meeting, and he was talking up that we should do the Great Reset. He was talking up that we should be, resetting our position moving forward from everything we've just learnt.
To be clear, right? The Great Reset, like the New Deal, anything or even the outbreak of World War I, World War II, monumental events. So the Great Reset, in my opinion, if there is such a thing, it will be a flawed model at best. But if we don't have a Great Reset, as it were, right, and we need to delve into some detail now what that means. We're staring down the barrel of war, because we can't get out of where we are unless there's a war.
That's right.
We just can't. Oh, sorry. No, I lied to you. There are two other scenarios on how to get out of that. Well, actually, several. All of them are science fiction scenarios. Number one, we discover another Earth-like planet, which is really close, and we can get there in a week.
Alien invasion?
No, just disclosure.
Oh.
Disclosure is enough.
That would be good.
No, it doesn't have to be an invasion.
Well, imagine if they officially landed on the lawn and said, if you don't fix your planet's thing within 1 year, we're coming back to destroy you.
Latu verata nectar.
Yeah, that's it.
So no. Look, to be honest with you, if you look at the economics and the science of alien invasion, right, just from a purely feasibility study point of view, highly unlikely to a civilization has developed space travel, right? And it can now, traverse, vast galactic, intergalactic distances, whatever it might be, between solar systems, etc. The civilization like that, which would be stage 2 civilizations at least, it could be stage 1 civilization, but certainly stage 1, stage 2. They have no need to invade anyone.
No.
The technology at their disposal is so far advanced.
They're like the George Soros on the planet. They don't even need anything from the planet.
No, the thing is, they wouldn't even. It's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if you've guys seen that.
Yes,
it's really fun. So that's the Vogons. So we're talking about stage 1 and stage 2 civilizations that Arthur Dent encounters, right? And they're blowing up the Earth to make space for a hyperspace bypass, something.
A bypass, that's right.
Which is hilarious, right? So they blow up the Earth. We've posted this. It's been up there for 10 years at Alpha Centauri. If you don't take any interest in your local affairs,
that's right.
Now, and that's the kind of thing that we have to understand here. It wouldn't make any sense. I maintain that most of the abductions and what we term the alien encounters that we have are in fact not that at all. I've told everybody before that I've got a huge problem with the anthropomorphic aliens that we encounter. Aliens that are coming from somewhere else, unless there's some kind of panspermia or seeding process in place, which is a whole different thing.
That made them all. Yep.
Yeah, which is again a whole different discussion, right? Then everything that somehow develops, evolves, whatever you want to call it, on another planet will necessarily have to be completely different to us, because even our biological history on this planet has got massive extinction level events. We are now looking at a fraction of a percentage of what used to exist on this planet.
Yeah, that's right. Like 98% was wiped out in one hit. So
correct.
All that crawled out of the soup the year after that was whatever could make it. Imagine the diversity right now, Mickey.
Oh God, it'd be phenomenal. I mean, but every eukaryote, every prokaryote, every bacterium on this planet is your brother compared to anything we encounter on a planet elsewhere that has evolved or developed independently, separately. Okay, so that's one. Two, I believe that there's inner earthers, I believe there's civilization inside the earth, etc. It says a whole bunch of stuff.
I think there's some people living under the ocean, to be honest, as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The moon, Mars, Phobos, Deimos, you've got one of the moons of Jupiter, it's not Ganymede, Europa, which seems to have water as well. So look, there are
Titan.
There's a lot going on. Titan is another one.
There's a water body, Mickey, the largest body in the asteroid belt. Yes, is spherical.
That's right.
With an ocean.
Correct. And that didn't make a planet just by a fraction. It's out in the Kuiper belt or the Oort cloud. I can't remember which.
No. It's in the asteroid belt.
In the asteroid belt?
Yeah, in the asteroid belt. They've found a spherical object now, which is the largest object, and it has a salinity, high salinity in its underneath the dust on the surface. Frozen
ocean maybe, but they also found objects in the Kuiper belt as well as the Oort
that's
cloud.
true. Yeah, completely.
Yep. But look, that's sort of the point we're trying to make here. So, okay, so disclosure is one. Then there's another opportunity that comes with, I guess, understanding that we are in fact living in the hypothesis, right? If there were an awareness cascade, which has now been effectively stopped, I believe. But these are the only ways to get out of where we are. Okay, there are no other ways to get out of the quagmire we're in, economically speaking, right? Even political speaking. I mean, it's really tough to get out of a situation like this. And in the past, for the most part, the only way out was a war or a natural catastrophe. That's good. A natural catastrophe is good, right? Because you need large amounts of destruction, and then a period of rebuild. And this is actually going to be sort of the theme we're going to have for the second part of the show when we have the addendum talking about the evidence for ancient civilizations. But the Great Reset could be a non-violent undertaking. I don't think it's going to be successful because people doing things is never a good thing. And what Dave has intimated earlier is that there is a great danger that it might take tyrannical forms. It might take fascist forms.
Yeah.
And there's some things that you found is interesting.
I'm going to read through what the editor wrote, Mickey. Yeah. All right. So, the editor says in the story that the second wave will arrive near the end of November this year, according to a whistleblower in Canada, and last until the end of January, which will be power-mad state premiers, governors and prime ministers across Australia, the US and UK and Canada and New Zealand may try to push another, and Dan Andrews is the Victorian premier, and Dan Andrews style second wave virus attack as part of the Gates-Rockefeller-World Economic Forum push for global vaccination and the Agenda 21, the new normal, new economy. Is the pitch.
Before you go on, though, before you go on, I mean, we already had the second wave.
No, we had a second, not a second wave of the virus. We never really got rid of it. It was just reappeared.
Yeah, but that's what a second wave is. I mean, the second wave, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear
you. Europe is going through the second, and in some cases, the third wave of the virus.
Yeah.
Right. So, look.
For me, a second wave is a brand new strain that comes through. It's different in its mortality rates.
Yeah, but this is
infection.
So the general definition of the second wave is exactly that. It's a second wave that runs through, like, so the infection rates go higher. And Melbourne, Victoria, is going through a second wave as we speak.
It's currently on the tail end of that. Yep.
Yeah, right. So we and again in Spain, France, they're going through second and third waves at the moment.
Yeah. So we're at the 18th of October. By the 24th, the people in Victoria will have been in the world's longest lockdown in history. So that's just saying. The editor continues, in exchange, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever and partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, which would allegedly allow individuals unrestricted travel and living, even under full lockdown, through the use of photo ID referred to as Canada's Health Pass. Remember, this is a Canadian whistleblower that was supposed to have leaked this to the Cairns News. And look, if you're looking for the story, it's on the screen right now. Just, pause that and search for what you need. Other than that, it should be said that this line has continued, but going on to what it led to as a rabbit hole. Mackie and I love rabbit holes. Yeah. And this is the bill that looks to have started the conversation. And this is, I found a YouTube clip which is directly out of Canadian politics, and there's a fellow on screen, I don't know his name, and this is the Ontario Parliament. And basically, in a bill put through the Canadian Parliament this week, Canada has sought the private tenders. There was an RFP that was put out. And for the building of internment camps, or maybe quarantine camps, and possibly the way that was worded was multi-purpose use camps, to house those determined to be isolated from society. That's the terminology of the bill. Is the multi-purpose use camps to house those people determined to be isolated from society. Now, he mentions a whole bunch of things in the thing, but it reminds me of the World War II camps Mickey and I were talking about before the show, where the West locked up and took away the assets of the people we were fighting in it was Japan, or Japanese people.
Germans, Japanese.
Yeah, all of those, right? Even Italians when we were in Italy, right? Yeah. So, and now, all of those families that are living in the West had all their stuff stripped from them, and of a lack of trust or the possibility of sudden patriotism that they might feel, and presented a real and present danger on home soil. That was the reasoning for it. Got approved, got built, they got stuffed into camps. Now, the fellow from Star Trek, Mackie, he's a Japanese American who was born...
Oh, yes, of course. He played Sulu.
Sulu.
His name is... Yeah, he played... Oh, was
yeah, I'm a friend of his on Facebook.
Yeah, but yes. Yeah.
His family had all their stuff taken. I went to his live show when we spoke about it. Look, I think all governments are using the never miss a good opportunity to fill any gaps that they have to equalize their powers in a unity not seen since World War II, is where I'm coming from. So that's my point of view, and I'm allowed to have an opinion. And I've got a radio show with Mackie, and we can voice them if we wish, being very careful, of course. The thing that we should possibly fear is what is not being said. So we don't know the alliances that are being made. We don't know what gaps need to be filled. We don't know how they're going to utilize these powers should they need it, should something happen. And there's a variety of things that can happen. Whether or not it's just a pure second wave, because I don't think people are just going to get locked up because they've got a virus, Mackie.
Unlikely. But look, there's a precedent for that as well.
Because we've found that the virus is so contagious that, I mean, you're putting the sick people together, that's sensible, but treating them is a different thing. You can't have a green zone, an orange zone, and a red zone. If the red zone's infected, everyone's going to get infected.
And look, that's a true statement. So I think what we're looking here at is it's a scenario that's going to play out some places and more easily than in others, simply because of the way that the society is structured and how cultures are working. Because if you were to impose this as a general measure, tearing families apart, blah 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 blah, etc., you will soon have a resistance movement. In the true sense of the word.
Well, we saw protests around the world, Mackie.
No, forget protests.
No, but we've seen protests just for
but
lockdowns. You tear families apart, there's going to be violence on the streets.
well, yeah, and it will become a very resistance type kind of scenario globally, in fact, and we will see which will bring a whole bunch of other things to the fore as well, martial law, etc., etc. I think the more immediate dangers that we're facing before that is going to happen, but I do believe that it could grow out of what's going to happen, are the election in the United States, because if you destabilize the United States to the point where it may collapse, and I'm not saying that it will, but I don't think it's that far off either. You have now got players in the world that are no longer rational. You have a whole bunch of non-rational players, and you're back to pre-World War I conditions when there was no unit or no unitary body, nothing that would encourage global cooperation like the UN or the League of Nations or anything like that. Okay, every player for himself, secret alliances with everybody, and then we get what we can for one another. The complicating factor here, of course, are the corporations, which will become a powerhouse in and of themselves.
Because they're multinationals.
Because they're multinationals. Bingo. So it's a slightly more complex scenario, and it's also slightly more volatile. And the volatility comes, unfortunately, there are a lot of weapons of mass destruction in a lot of people's hands these days. They just are. Biological, chemical, nuclear, right? Don't forget nuclear for a second, but it's enough. As we have seen here, biological, best, if this were a biological weapon, you couldn't ask for more. Best bang for your buck.
It's got a bunch of ticks, hasn't it?
100%. It'll always be my choice. My weapon of mass destruction of choice, if you want to be that, sinister and sarcastic. But ultimately, Dave, the problem that we have here is that we are in a highly unstable, highly destabilized economy, global economy, and political environment as well. We are, very much so. We're seeing things that used to be certainties fall by the wayside. America is experiencing a real awakening in many ways. And the Black Lives Matter protest movement, the true violence that is visited upon minorities, and not just African Americans, any minority in the world, is all of a sudden it's being realized, and it's a problem, and people are not going to take it lying down anymore. People will stand up. They will take matters into their own hands if they need to, and I think what we're going to see is it's just going to get worse. And God forbid Donald Trump loses the election. He has already indicated that he will take it to the Supreme Court, which is his right, which is what happened. Let's remember in 2000. That's right. Exactly what happened. Okay, George Bush was taken to the Supreme Court by Al Gore, right? That's right. But once the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, though, then it was all over. Having said that, Trump has just stacked the bench with his nominee. I mean, the person isn't through it, the lady, but if she gets through, that means this is for the first time in a long time you have an unbalanced bench. When I say unbalanced, you no longer have an equilibrium of judges that are liberal leaning and also conservative leaning. There's a majority conservative or Republican appointed judges on the bench now. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the last of the dyed in the wool liberals, if you will. That's right. And she fought through Roe v. Wade and a whole bunch of other things as well, which we might see overturned. If the bench changes, we might see abortion rights in the United States being overturned. It's a really volatile subject, and I wouldn't hazard an opinion because I'm a man. Okay? Yeah. A man shouldn't have an opinion in this at all. It should be completely arbitrated by women. That's who should arbitrate. Because as a man, you have no stake in the man. Not really, right? Not really. It's some stake, but not really. It's mostly 80%. The woman's area of expertise and also responsibility, and she is the person that is affected most by any ruling that will come this way. Okay, am I for it? Am I against it? I'm neither for or against it. I believe that people have a right to choose. There should be choice, and I mean, birth control is probably better. But how do you deal with rape victims, right, or incest victims, or anything like that? This is really, really tough ethical and moral ground to walk on. That's what we're going to see there.
Yeah, it's sort of difficult now. I think the grounds are muddied. I think there's things that shouldn't have been shared that are shared, and things that should be shared that aren't. There's, of course, the tax records from Trump, they were taken from him. He wasn't able to stop that sharing, and no social media platform prevented them from being shared. It's odd.
We should know. So his information we should know, because he's the freaking president. He paid no tax.
He should have already provided that. That's right, and made them public. But
he didn't want to, and obviously he didn't want to, because clearly he's not paying any tax, right? Now, am I a fan of paying tax? No, not at all. If I could get away with not paying any, I wouldn't. But most of us have to pay tax, or we go to jail. That's what happens in the world, right? So I'm sorry. I have no sympathy
for that. Pay a lot of tax.
Yeah, I pay back a lot of tax. Trust me, Australia pay a lot of tax. So I've no sympathy from whatsoever. Zero, none. Okay, I want all his records out in the open. And the less he's willing to share them, the less I trust him. That's just me, right?
Okay, so I watched a story, Mickey, from 2017 about Creepy Joe Biden. Creepy Joe, old Joe, and it was a Hannity piece, and he showed a montage of all of the hair smelling and the clutching and the inappropriate behaviour, and remember what happened to Hannity. So there's powers above that want a specific outcome in this coming election for the US, and let's just put it this way, that I can openly name it because he went public with his opinion, and George Soros says he doesn't say we, he says Trump will be displaced in November. That's what he says. So if it happens to his liking, that seems just like the Godfather, Mickey, from the films, where he just says a phrase and it gets done.
But this is the world. I mean, I find this really amazing that people have this fantasy, lollipops and rainbow view of the world. It's
not.
The world is a poop hole. Okay.
Did you read my rants, Mickey, in that online post rant about
No, I didn't actually. I did not. Is it similar? We are living in a world that is completely dominated by self-interest.
That's right.
The prevailing power structures have only one purpose.
Yeah.
And that's to remain the power structures. Okay? They're self-perpetuating power structures. They might change a little bit here and there, but for the most part, the people in power, you know what they want to be? In power. In the future, ad infinitum.
You mean they don't want to just retire?
No.
And pass it on to someone else? That's funny, right? That's going to keep you laughing all night.
Yeah, but to like-minded individuals, if we're living in a world that has power structures which are completely hereditary, okay? And when I say power structures, I'm not talking about necessarily presidencies or even the dynastic lines. I'm talking about true power, right? The true power that runs this world. And there's wealth beyond imagining. If you've got enough wealth, then whatever shape or form it takes, then you can do whatever you want. The laws don't apply to you, as we've seen with. I mean, the prime example of someone who's not even that rich. I mean, he had a few $100 million, don't get me wrong, but I think he had a few people in his pocket that he could, blackmail. There was Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Epstein, had lots of people in his pocket.
He had no fear of the law because it didn't apply to him. The sweetheart deal that was given to him, by the way, the attorney general that gave to him is now in the Trump administration, just to let you all know.
Yeah.
Rudy and the lawyer Dershowitz is the same lawyer that is looking after a whole bunch of other people's interests. Believe it or not, Alan Dershowitz, right? He's
wasn't he OJ as well, or something?
Yeah, absolutely. They all live in each other's pockets. These people, right? Let's be very clear on this. And what happened to Ghislaine Maxwell? What happened to her? I haven't heard a thing. Not a peep. Blip.
Not a peep.
And I'm looking. Okay, I'm looking. Where is she? What happened? Has she been deposed? Has she gone to court?
Has she been accidented?
Has she been accidented? Who's Ghislaine Maxwell? You get 6 weeks down the track. Oh no, there's Mandela effect. She never existed.
Yeah, that's going to happen. The other thing, Mickey, is like that Big Brother in like the Ukraine or something, wherever it was, where the television station was bought by another station, and they just walked off the set and left the people in there with no food.
Susie Q909 is asking for something. Dave, if you can put a link to what we were reading.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
That was the Canada thing, right?
Yeah. No dramas. We'll do. Thank you. We'll catch you after this very short break. Stay tuned, everyone. We have another hour.